Greetings, people of Earth. Welcome back. My name is Jax, and apologies for my throat. A little bit froggy. It's early morning, and last few days have been hectic. But it brings me on to my topic of the day, which is if you need help, get it. This is specifically going to cover the concept of knowing that something is wrong with you, whether it is physical, medical, chemical, whether it is mental, whatever it might be. If you know you need help, don't procrastinate. If you've got a sore tooth, get it fixed, sort it out. If you have the means, if you have the ability, if you have some free time, you need to get it done. You have a responsibility to yourself to keep yourself going. And this is something that has become a little bit pertinent in my life. And I won't go into details too much because I do feel like it's one of the last things that I would like to keep private is like my medical health and things like that. I've talked about my heart, and there is a big correlation to like my heart and what's going on right now, but I'm going to keep it a little bit private. But what you get to know is that I have had some medical intrigue recently. And one thing that I'm very proud about myself and about who I am is that when something is wrong like that, when it is like a medical issue or something, I am not afraid to go and get help immediately. Thankfully, I live in Canada where the medical system honestly is not the greatest. Like, I have a lot of gripes about it and a lot of frustrations, but one thing it is good for is if you know the system and you know what you're specifically looking for, it can be quite easy to get that, and many of these services are available. You don't have to pay up front. You pay in your taxes when the tax man comes every year. And I do like that because it helps people in our society who might not be able to do something like this. If we lived in America, the idea of having to pay an incredible sum just to access a healthcare professional, and in many countries in the world where you don't have access, you don't have access. So I'm very thankful for my system. I know it's not the perfect system, but it definitely helped in this situation. So that is kind of the crux of what I want to talk about. If you know you need help, please get it. Like I said, if you have a sore tooth, if you're feeling something weird in your stomach, if you have some incredible muscle pain and ache, get it sorted, have it looked at. Don't be afraid to try and fix the problem as soon as possible, because believe it or not, a problem that doesn't get fixed only gets worse. So that's kind of the medical part of this situation. But now I would very much like to talk about the rest of it. And so again, the title of this video is If You Need Help, Get It. There are a lot of things in our life that aren't medical that can go wrong, that don't exactly run the way they should. The wrench in the machine or the unexpected occurrence. And this can be with your mental state. This can be with a job that you have to do. This can be in a relationship. But understanding that it's okay to ask for help, and actually it can make the problem a lot easier. Many hands make light work. Let someone in on your problem or your struggle. Even just telling a friend or a family member about what you're going through can make you feel so much better. And we are just starting to understand how much stress can impact your body and your health and the whole thing. Like, we have such a basic understanding of how these things affect our mental state, our health, our chemical balances, our hormones, everything. And it is crucial to understand that it is okay to ask for help. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you a sissy. It doesn't do any of that. All it does is it helps the problem get solved quicker, because suddenly you have two minds thinking about the solution, or you have many people who are committed to making sure that you're okay. And that's a good thing. That's never a bad thing. I think it can be really hard, especially if you're an introvert, to try and share your problems with other people. It can be very frightening and vulnerable, and you just really don't want to do it. But I can tell you that it absolutely makes the situation better. And a lot of people are quite shocked when you ask for help because they just assume that you're doing amazing because, from the outside, you look like you're doing amazing. So it can be quite a surprise when someone asks for help and the person responds with like, "Oh, you actually need help?" Yes, like we all do. It's this crazy idea that, nobody knows how unhinged you are other than yourself. And so when you ask for help, someone will kind of be like shocked that you need help, but they get over that pretty quickly once you explain, once you give them the explanation and the causes. They kind of jump into help mode, and it's something that humans are really good at. It makes us amazing. It makes us a community. So don't be afraid to ask for help is basically the end of it. You need to have these problems fixed. Many problems in life, basically what happens is if the problem isn't resolved, it gets worse. And so, especially when it comes to health and mental health, if you don't solve the problem, it's only going to get worse. The toothache is only going to get worse. The depression or anxiety can only increase. The muscle ache or the broken bone, these things need to be resolved properly. And if they're not resolved properly, suddenly you have to get like a re-break or something like that. And that is no good. That sets you back even further. So do not be afraid to ask professionals, ask, medical professionals, therapists, psychiatrists, whatever it is. But also don't be afraid to ask the people in your life that you love. Do not be afraid to ask these people for advice. I've had several situations where I've talked to a parent about something I'm going through medically, and they're like, "Oh, your great grandfather had this, and this is what helped." Surprise, surprise, it helped me too. We are products of our environment and our family history. So don't be afraid to have a look at that. Don't be afraid to explore any kind of professional advice that might help. I'm going to quickly put a little caveat in here and say, be careful of online search histories and like artificial intelligence. Yes, if you can articulate what you're going through, you might get some good you might get some good advice. You might get some anecdotes or stories of people who are saying like, "Oh, well, if this happened to you, I did this and it helped." Just be careful with that. Maybe take that advice with a grain of salt. Even with artificial intelligence, you could explain in really good detail what you're going through, and then it can look through all the literature and tell you what you should do. But just be careful. You might get a dud. You might get a bad answer or an answer that isn't in entirety complete. So yeah, try not to self-diagnose. I know it can be really, really tempting to try and self-diagnose like a medical or a health issue in general, but just be careful. Remember, your health is the one thing that you should covet and that you should be very, very guarded and defensive of. Your health is so critically important for life on this planet. And when your health takes a turn, you don't even want to be here anymore. Like being somewhat pain-free is absolutely huge. As someone who's suffered chronic back pain and, all kinds of very painful conditions, being in pain is not fun. And if you're not in pain, please appreciate that you're not in pain. Please appreciate that you have a body that doesn't want to hurt you. And that is a huge luxury that many of us do not get. So that is my advice. Please do not be afraid to ask for help. Be careful of online help. You could get a great gem of wisdom, but you could also get something that isn't great. So this is just some general help and advice. I'm not telling you to, correct your A4 vertebra or anything like that. I'm just advocating for being an advocate for yourself. Advocate for your health and your well-being. And if you have a problem, do not be afraid to come to someone you love or to a professional with some advice. There you go. I hope you guys have a beautiful day, month, year, century, millennium, decade, midlife crisis, whatever you're having. I hope it's amazing. And as always, I will talk to you guys tomorrow.